Customerland is a podcast about customers, how to get more of them, how to keep them, what makes them tick. We talk to the experts, the technologies, and occasionally actual people, customers, to find out what they're all about. So if you're a CX pro, a loyalty marketer, a brand owner, an agency planner, if you're a CRM and personalization geek, if you're a customer service, CSAT, NPS nerd, you finally have a home. I'm Mike Giambattista. Welcome to Customerland. I'd like to welcome Matt Hallett to the conversation. Matt is head of product solutions at Amperity, which is a CDP that if you haven't heard of, I'm not sure where you've been hiding, but they're doing
That's so true.
Matt, thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it. One, I'm but not positive that I pronounced your last name correctly.
You sure did.
And I'm just wondering, give us just for context, kind of a brief of what Amperity does, because it's a CDP that operates a little bit more uniquely, I'd say, in description than a lot of others.
Well, you've already cut to the punchline there. Absolutely. So Amperity started in 2016. It is a customer data platform in the vein of customer data infrastructure. Those companies that recognize that they need to build upon a first-party foundation of knowing who their customer is. That's not just what happened yesterday, but it's what happened since inception, so they can drive better customer experiences, better analytics, better reporting, and also now what's happened in the ecosystem is a lot of better new customer acquisition as a result of what they know about who they know. 2016 software as a service platform, an extension of IT and marketing infrastructure to help people to build upon said foundation to drive those experiences, as we said. About 400 of people, about 400 or so brands across the globe, multi-continent now. Some of the largest brands, mostly a lot of blue chip, Fortune 500 companies use us. Heavy footprint in retail. Unifying online sales transactions, offline sales transactions to help kind of drive that solid foundation, overlaying with second-party data, third-party data where appropriate to help them to augment and extend their knowledge. Really excited about that. And big, strong footprint in retail, but now some really great wins in telco, travel and hospitality, FinServe. It's essentially no one, there isn't enough company out there that doesn't have I need to know more about my customer problem.
Right. I'm super intrigued by the fact that you're a 2016 company, yet you're servicing. And I was on your site earlier, looking at
big
some
names.
And that's no small task for anybody, much less a company that's only been around for 6 years at this point, or 7, or whatever it is. That's some pretty serious brands and some pretty serious accomplishments there.
Well, that's really glad you noticed that, and that's because the founding team had cut their chops on this space, or 10 years prior to that as well too. Primarily life sciences and pharmaceutical space, a little bit of medical device, but they had just constantly been hitting that same problem over and over and over. That 85% of companies want to have a unified customer profile that they can trust, and yet only 14% had actually really achieved it. And that constant slog of working through CRM and MDM and enterprise data warehouses and all these initiatives, no one had really achieved that. So they really kind of got a bit of a fast pass to the front of the line in 2016 by building upon that legacy of knowledge.
So, I mean, I kind of look at this, at what you're doing from the sidelines. That's my role here, sidelines commentator. But if you look at the explosion in CDPs, 2016, 17, maybe 18, they just seem to proliferate. They were everywhere, 100%. And it was and remains a critical component of anybody's stack.
Yeah.
But there was a maturity level that you guys seem to have achieved ahead of everybody else's curve. And that's basically all what I'm attributing your great client roster to.
100%. I mean, the idea of mastering first your customer data is as old as time, right? I mean, database marketing service providers, CRM, SFA, there's no shortage of 3-letter acronyms.
Love our acronyms.
Totally. But I think CDP and the way that they approached it was truly look, Any brand has 91 marketing solutions today to engage customers, and that's just known customers. That's not even the unknown customers,
Right.
the dark black magic of ad tech space. And that's just in marketing. They recognize that, look, if we're going to truly build a foundation there, it has to be in service of marketing, service, sales. It has to be a foundation that IT and analysts can trust. And so, I mean, they really lean into that hard problem. And that's why there's 8 patents, 45 machine learning models, essentially everything that is about using the best and scalable cloud technology, AI, to help customers to understand who their customers are as if a human was looking at it, to the scale that's a necessity to be able to batch process. I think we have 6.5 billion brand customer relationships under management today, which represents trillions upon trillions of data, sets of data to be normalized and consolidated to provide that foundation. But to do that on a scalable process was impossible for any single organization. So we wanted to build that platform for people to be able to leverage that as a service, an extension of their AWS stack or their Azure stack accordingly.
Well, maybe in a future conversation, I'd love to have a real discussion around some of the learnings that you've gleaned from that, because you get to observe a live data set that's way bigger than most other people have had access to. So, and we do primary research for a handful of people. We do secondary research for a handful of people, and most of it centers around consumer insights from massive data sets. So next time over a big glass of iced tea or something, we'll discuss all that stuff.
Love it. Yeah. Lots of quips. I think our favorite is, 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customer base. But the 20% of your customers have the dirtiest data, and we can prove it. Right. And so, based upon all that massive amount of data and seeing the trends there, certainly it's got to be a very tall glass of iced tea.
Yeah, right. So one of the several things that really caught my attention when we first started this conversation was Amperity's willingness to lead off with retail media networks. It's I don't have to tell you, and the listening audience probably already knows this, but there's a massive, almost historically unforeseen shift in spend out of traditional digital channels into retail media networks. That's just, I think that the technology base that supports it probably isn't even ready for that. I know that the companies that are behind some of these bigger shifts are scrambling to handle the tide that's just going to be flowing their way. But here's Amperity, a leading CDP, saying, "Hey, let's talk retail media networks. Let's have that discussion," which is an interesting place to start a CDP discussion.
Absolutely. We sit at a unique spot where we have probably about 20 or 25 customers that have some version of in a maturity curve of launching a retail media network, which it is certainly a kindergarten to collegiate continuum for any organization going through that. The internal battles, the legal battles, the whose money and whose pocket is this coming out of, and et cetera. There's companies at different stages. So we have this kind of front row seat to see that evolution in them across the continuum. And then the 300 plus brands that they have that don't have the retail media network, and they're not a media or a publishing platform, but they're looking at those those retail media networks as the holy grail, as the ability to truly, yes, be able to get attribution as associated to your ad spend. But you've got to work through the tenuous at odds, sometimes relationships between the brand and the wholesale retailer.
Right.
It's fascinating. So to see that, we get a front row seat to both sides of the equation. Our platform, when you have mastered, cleaned, unified first-party data inside of our platform for our customers, they're able to immediately activate and send that data to certainly the email and the SMS campaigns, all that. But we're seeing a rise in people needing to take that to Facebooks and TikToks and Googles for the upper funnel activation story. Well, guess where we want to have there? It's just not just Facebook, Google, and TikTok as end destinations for your paid media, but for all of our customers, also the retail media networks that are also on the Amperity Foundation. So it's a great story in helping our customers that are in our ecosystem to get closer together across that brand marketing and performance marketing, band together in the changing face of the pandemic, a recession, the ever threat of Amazon and all the things associated to why retail media networks exist.
Well, I was at NRF for 3 days. It seemed like a week.
Me too. Oh man.
But it was wild. It was really a great show. So many companies debuting innovative approaches to some of the problems that the industry's faced for so long. Well, hey, look at that. There's an interesting wrinkle on a solution here. A lot of people talking about retail media networks. I spoke with a couple of handfuls of companies that had developed last mile technologies for delivering those ads from the ad networks. When you question them about, and I hope this doesn't sound disparaging because I don't mean it that way, but when asked about, okay, where does the data come from? Where does it go? They, I guess in their own way, said, well, we need a CDP that can handle this. And
that's the truth.
Not all CDPs are built equal.
They're not.
Not all CDPs. In fact, I would say that service marketing first really are built to handle media in any
Mike, you still get it.
Scalable way. So when we first had this initial conversation, I thought, okay, this could be really interesting because now I get a front row seat to watch how you guys interact with and how all these other last mile delivery technologies, now they have a source. By the way, I'm happy to plug you guys in together. So
that sounds great. That sounds great. No, I think what we've seen, and I've been great to be part of a lot of these conversations, is that at some of our retail media networks, which I'll keep them the names specifically out of this for all the reasons, they said, look, we were lucky that we chose Imperity for our identity management, bringing our customer profiles together. And we did that for IT, we did that for analytics, and we did that for our marketing and engagement to unknown customers. We were lucky that we made that decision because retail media networks fell in our lap as far as a trend in the market in the ecoscape. And Imperity helped us to skip the crawl, walk, run stages, or crawl and walk to essentially get to the run stage, where a lot of retail media networks out there, it's kind of easy to get started with retail media network, right? You license with a few of the name players out there, the Criteo, the Citrus Ads, Promote IQs. You install a pixel here and there, and boom, you've got ads up on your site. But what the question is like, how are you going to differentiate? How are you going to get to quality? How are you going to build transparency and responsiveness, and also lower the margins that you're overall needing to pay when you've just outsourced the entire thing to a solution that's out there? So for the retail media networks that we have, they're really excited about that foundation because they already had it and they'd already crossed that chasm overall. And our customers that were identity only and came to a retail media network, it's the same kind of paradigm that we're seeing out there repeatedly, which is great because a CDP that is a kind of a marketing focused one or a tag management event routing solution, those are not made for retail media networks.
Right, you're going to have to square peg something in a round hole to try to make that work if it's not from scratch.
Especially our bread and butter is helping to kind of cross that chasm of online to offline. 90% of sales transactions still happen offline in stores. Thank God for our retailers, right? But you got to get to that attribution. So if you're out there and you're only able to correlate your spend that you're selling to the ad ecosystem to the 10% of the online purchasers, but you can't get it to that offline, you're missing a lot. And so that's another great foundation that we bring to bear for our ecosystem there.
This isn't so much a sponsor message as it is an encouragement. Each year for the past 20 years or so, the world's best marketers have been gathering in Chicago for 2.5 days of high-level learning and networking. It's called CRMC. On my calendar, I've placed a hard hold on June 7th through the 9th so that I can be there and be a part of what's about to happen in retail, in loyalty, and in technology. You should be there too. You can learn more and you can register in the link below this podcast, or you can go directly to the event website at thecrmc.com. That's thecrmc.com. I go to my fair share of events throughout the year. CRMC is my one can't miss event of the year. I hope to see you there. I've spoken to just a small handful of organizations that are building out their retail media networks, that I would say are approaching it with any degree of maturity and sophistication. And I don't really have a sense of what the percentages are, but I would guess that there are a majority of companies that are looking into RMNs that are really just looking at it as like, hey, look, another profit center, another profit, if you will. Here's another channel for a message. But at its highest utility, an RMN you can derive so much customer data out of those things just because it's a unique series of channels that have never even existed before.
Absolutely.
So it's gonna be really interesting to see, how that maturation kind of goes. I mean, as you've mentioned, there are some huge ones out there and they're already doing it really well. But
yeah, what I love are the ones that have now, and that you're right about the maturity, the ones that stop calling their CPG product partners, supply partners, whatever word you want to call it, they start calling them clients. I love that evolution. And because it's essentially certainly another revenue source, certainly a great high margin business, on-site, off-site, all those things. But it's also a way to treat your product partners, your CPG suppliers as clients. And what a great way to kind of grow that relationship, treat it with the respect, keep them from going to DTC at the fervor they were during that pandemic. Right. Keep them from going to the competitor who also has a retail media network, by the way. And including the lion in the room, the elephant we will talk about, Amazon, who is eager for any dollar, but doesn't have the 90% of offline sales transactions that they need to show return on ad spend, efficiency, or effectiveness, or attribution. Our retailers do. And so anyways, so the closer they get to these relationships, the better they can make these relationships. I think it's a great win-win-win for that ecosystem and the supply chain. It's a great win-win for the customer experience throughout all of it. And certainly should help our customers, retailers specifically, to remain not only just relevant, but to dominate in market.
Yeah. So I hope we do get a chance to talk about this ad nauseum because there's so much to talk about here. But let's not do that in this call. Instead, I want to just talk a little bit while we're still here together about what is now a fairly tired topic, and that is
I know what you're going to talk about.
I mean,
do those cookies have mold on them yet?
They do. They're just nasty. College dorm fridge kind of situation.
Yeah.
But the fact is that even though it's a tired topic and has been overplayed, and there's been an awful lot of hand wringing and skies falling.
Certainly.
The reality is that there's still a lot of organizations that are just now waking up to the fact that, oh no, I got a problem on my hands and I better figure out something radically good, radically quick. And
yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like Amperity has a direct line on how that's going.
We're really excited about it. Like, as you said, there's been a lot of Nostradamus hand wringing. The winter is coming, to use a Game of Thrones metaphor analogy there. But what we're really excited about is seeing our customers actually in action, doing this migration. And what's amazing is that they're seeing better. I'm going to sound like such a salesperson here, but it's so true. They actually are seeing better results today by moving away from the cookie than waiting for the cookie to erode into its entire, its complete decay. Yes, there's pains, certainly. Fragmented walled gardens, unifying measurement and attribution across all that ecosystem. But when it comes down to just straight match rates, when it comes to just straight efficiencies in time, cost efficiencies, safety and security ecosystem, not giving data to your competitors when it comes to onboarding it to the ecosystem, we're seeing our customers running these tests and they're seeing incredible results that make them feel like, gosh, why didn't I do this 6 months ago? Because could have driven additional revenue, save some money, save some time, save us from pulling our hair out. So had been a lot of pontification. We're seeing a lot of migration today. Very excited about the migration we're seeing. And you're going to be seeing some really cool things from Amperity in this vein. Because honestly, we've been here this whole time. The ad tech is moving into the apartment of marketing and IT. And it's like a crazy sitcom of like Perfect Strangers or The Odd Couple. I don't know. The ad tech's moving in with marketing and IT, and they're looking for a place to put their couch, looking for a place to put their toothbrush. And what we're finding is that we'd always already had been here with first party identity, the ability to kind of curate, cut lists to build segments, call them audiences, call them lists, call them whatever you want. They're all the same thing. And it's such a great hand in glove experience where ad tech is coming in. They're like, yep, can't do what I used to be able to do. But yeah, now this couch is pretty comfy. Oh my God. And I'm seeing better results already. Why was I living in my old apartment? Like I should have moved in a long time ago.
Right.
And we're really excited about that because obviously it's just another set of use cases for a solid first party foundation for our customers. And it's just, and we don't have a rate card. It's, use the data as you need in the ecosystems as you want.
Well, just curious if in your role specifically, do you have the ability to discern in any way, are there categories of brands out there that are doing better at adopting new solutions versus others? Are there any groups out there that are kind of outperforming others, and are there any laggards? And no, we're not looking for brand names,
Sure. Yeah.
Here, but if you had to say, well, yeah, travel and hospitality really jumped up here, or actually, that's
it's a great question. It's always easier to run more quickly when you didn't have a foundation to start. We have some incredible wins lately with major QSRs and the food service franchise ecosystem. That wasn't normally our bread and butter. We were very much retail, fashion retail, high-end luxury, outdoor sports kind of retail. But we're seeing that where a lot of those companies didn't have a first-party data foundation at all, and they made it, and actually also CPG. We have an amazing win with a top 5 CPG who usually has a dearth of first-party data. But when they're starting with a blank slate, it's pretty easy for them to adopt a lot of these scenarios out of the get-go. So to some extent, some of the industry laggards are a little bit faster because they don't have a legacy of internal politics and bureaucracy and agencies and this and that to work through. Yep. But I would say outside of that, I would say high-end luxury. I was surprised. I'm constantly surprised about high-end luxury goods, fashion, etc. Their push to get to DTC made them sharp, made them smart, made them realize that they love this interesting relationship. But they're also recognizing that, gosh, those wholesalers have a relationship that we need to continue to grow with. So, I think the $1 to $5 billion luxury retailer size organizations, I've seen them move a little bit faster than most. And I think that's because in the recession that I don't think it's hit them as much from what I've read and what I've seen. People are still out there spending money in those categories.
Yeah, almost vertical by vertical, that sector grew.
It's crazy, right? Yeah. Wouldn't have expected.
It still is, in fact.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So let me ask you something a hair more technically oriented, but does Amperity play in any particular technology ecosystems better than others? And what I mean by that is, I don't know the answer to this. This is not a softball leading question, but is Amperity a great Adobe shop, or do you operate better within, say, Microsoft houses?
Great question.
Does it even matter? Or are there some places you play better or worse?
That's a great question. Early on, we recognized that not everyone was going to be a fan of Amazon, no matter how much Bezos and Jassy want that to be the case. They're a foe to many. So we needed to be platform agnostic, which is hard because as a technology solution, if you're not always able to just quickly adopt the next shiny solution that AWS delivers, because you need it at a parity with something that Azure delivers, so you can provide complete ability for an organization to. You don't want to launch or have 2 different product lines, right, for the same solution.
Right.
So it creates a lowest common denominator pain, which made our organization have to truly build a lot of this infrastructure. So we're proud to say and excited to say that we're extremely agnostic for those that are AWS fans and those who are Azure fans as primary platforms to build upon. And we work extremely well with Snowflake, Ingress, Egress, GCP, Google as appropriate. And I think we're up to like 200 to 300 connectors to bring data in and out of the ecosystems there. So luckily, we've been able to remain agnostic in that regard, and that helps us to be friend to many. Whether we need support with Azure at a deal, we need support with AWS at a deal. We can remain neutral, as it were.
Very cool. That's great to know. I'm asking the question a little selfishly. We, among other things, we produce a series of buyer's guides, technology buyer's guides. And no coincidence here, but the one that we're currently in production on is Retail Media Networks technology.
Oh, great! Right.
So partially just because I'm just crazy interested in it, because the money that's pouring in is literally obscene.
Oh, it's obscene.
But two, there are so many supporting technologies, as I mentioned earlier, that are kind of looking for their space here. So we're going to be publishing on that, and the guide comes out, I believe, in mid Q2 on something like that. But
so
we'll
great.
find out where Amperity fits in that whole thing and start talking about,
Love it. I love it. Yeah. I think of retail media as as advertising as a service, and by and large, it's advertising as a service on your first party audiences. And in that way, it's kind of like they're starting an Uber service. You're talking the minivan is being used as a service to drive around other people's kids, but It's making people have to recognize how clean was the minivan I was using internally. Did I have alignment? Do I have French fries and Cheetos sticking between the car seat covers?
Right.
Because if I'm going to turn my minivan into a service for others, I got to get the cobwebs out of there. I got to be smooth. I got to be seamless. I got to be transparent. I got to be open. I got to show the cost effectiveness, especially when there's going to be a lot of minivans out there competing for that same as a service advertising ecosystem. So really excited about the minivan. If you'll tolerate my analogy a little further there, in that the customers that have ours that we've helped support, IT and marketing to live together and use that tool for their family. Now they're going to build it as a service. It's really giving them a leg up. Not that people can't go quickly out and start a retail media network by renting a minivan that they don't own. But what we're seeing is in that ecosystem, margins are tight, and you want to be out there to the ecosystem talking about how you're retaining, 80, 70, 60% margin of all these ad dollars flowing through you. And if you're writing a check for all of that, that's hard for them to stomach longer term. So anyways, excited about the guide, excited to be part of that and show where we fit in the continuum for those that started with us or want to continue to evolve their efficiencies by using Amperity as a foundation.
There will be a lot that we should be talking about amongst all of us here as we develop our own maturity and perspectives on what's happening. As I mentioned, we're outside, we're sidelines bit players here. Mm-hmm. We're focused on that as an area because there's just so much activity. But
and what? We got this whole conversation without even mentioning the word clean rooms, but that would certainly be part of that conversation, right? Is
there you went and said it. Now we have to address it. Sorry.
No, it's just at what stage in that maturity does a clean room make sense?
Right.
Bridge that relationship even further. So absolutely, it's a certain stage for sure, but that would be part of that, without a doubt.
Well, let's figure out when it's sensible to have another conversation as we're further into production on our work, as you guys develop further insights into what's happening in that space. Be great to just intersect and see where things go.
That'd be an honor.